Alright, welcome ladies and gentlemen to part 2 of Ask the King, episode 65 for June 29th, 2017. I hope you enjoyed part 1. If you didn't check it out, it's live on the King of Hate vlogs. You can check that out at your convenience. But now, we will now dive into the questions from the forum posters. Alright, so here we go. Second batch of questions. Let's begin. Alright, so first question is from Ismael, and he says, "Hey Phil, I really enjoy your streams. You are a great talker. I want to know if you have any tips on streaming or talking to a camera. I tried it in the past and it just feels so weird for me, but when you make your pre-streams and video series, you look like a professional. How do you do it for so long? Do you have any tips when talking to a camera?" Well, let me put it this way. I didn't just start public speaking by doing YouTube videos or streams. I actually had a long history of doing things in public. For example, when I was in elementary school and high school, I would do speeches and things like that, oral presentations. When I had different jobs over the years, sales jobs, you gotta be out and about in front of people, talking to people constantly to try to sell stuff at a store, right? Later on, when I was doing continuous improvement work in my office job, I would have to be constantly leading projects and then presenting the results of those projects to upper management of a company. So I already had a lot of experience with public speaking and doing things in front of people in public before I had ever headed over to YouTube. Now, admittedly, when I started on YouTube, I just had the camera pointed at the television and I was doing gameplay, okay? Eventually, there was a desire from people to learn more about me, to know about, gee, what's my schedule for the week? Can I ask Phil questions and learn about him as a person? Because I really like his gameplay style, but let's hear more about him behind the scenes of stuff. Admittedly, when I first started doing stuff on camera, it felt a little weird because right now I'm staring at a little webcam. I'm not looking at a person and talking directly to a person and interacting back and forth. I'm talking to a piece of equipment, okay? And it could be a little weird, but what I would say is after doing it for months of just talking to the camera, it got easier. Now, keep in mind, when I did YouTube back then, it wasn't live. So I was able to talk to the camera and record and then play that video back before anyone else ever saw it to see, gee, how did I come across and stuff like that. Now, the truth be told, I never really did double or triple takes. It wasn't like I had to keep doing multiple takes. Only if I ever completely forgot what I was supposed to say in a video would I ever go back and restart and re-record a video. For the most part, most of the videos you see on YouTube are one take, right? But, yeah, it came from me more of having a history of doing public speaking and stuff beforehand. Also, keep in mind, I used to be a competitive Street Fighter player. Now, here's another whole bag of worms, I thought it was can of worms, where you're playing a game in front of people on public display. So if you're in a tournament, people are watching your match. They're either cheering for you or you know, booing against you, whatever it may be. But, you know, I went to EVO and I played in front of 1,000 people on stage live. That was before it was even live streamed. It was just people live there, you know, watching in person. But, you know, I was used to publicly performing and doing things in front of people before I ever did YouTube or Twitch. Do I have any tips? Not really. What I would say is before, if you are going to do live streams and stuff, maybe you want to get just a camera or just record locally with your webcam first, just to see how you come across, and maybe you want to try to tweak things and make yourself, you know, get better at it before you go public on a live stream. But for the most part, you know, for me, it was always doing other things before YouTube that got me prepared for this. Okay. Next question. Now, this is awesome. And I believe this is 100% genuine. From Tyrannid Man. Ladies and gentlemen, this is an old friend of mine, Isaac Graham, from the Street Fighter community. In fact, I'll read you his whole message. He says, "Hi, Phil. I hope you remember me. It's Isaac Graham from Maryland. I've been watching your videos for years, and I love your series. The question I have is, when are you actually going to get serious and get back into the fighting game scene? We miss you, man. I know that you're always welcome back in Maryland. You and that trash talk and hate that you carry. I hope all is well. Take care, bro. P.S. Looking forward to the next qualifiers breakfast." Yeah. Isaac is cool, man. Isaac's cool people. It's funny because a lot of people say, "Oh, Phil, everyone in the fighting game community hates you." That's not true. The truth of the matter is there's lots of people, in particular East Coasters, who got to know me in person and hung out with me and either ran tournaments or played in tournaments with me and did this kind of stuff, respect me, and actually, you know, are happy that I've moved on to YouTube and found something else that I was able to do outside of Street Fighter because, you know, we were all friendly. Those were back in the day before you could really make any kind of significant money playing Street Fighter. Even if you won tournaments, it wasn't like you were making bank playing Street Fighter because the cost of travel and the cost of all that outweighed what you won at the tournament anyway. It was more for the love of the game than anything else. And Isaac was one of those people. He's from Maryland, a group of players in Maryland who are always heavily into games like Marvel vs. Capcom 2. And a lot of people down there also played CVS 2 and games like that. And a few of them played Super Turbo, Third Strike, that kind of stuff. And he was one of the people who I've told this story about EVO where we had a qualifiers breakfast. I was actually hanging out with the Maryland guys a lot. And we were all basically placing in various tournaments. I had placed in Super Turbo. Isaac had placed in Marvel vs. Capcom 2. And I really can't remember this other guy's name, even though he was one of the main Maryland crew. He had placed in Capcom vs. SNK 2. So we'd all placed in our respective games that we had hoped we would make to the top brackets of each game. And we were cheering for each other, and it was a really awesome experience. And the qualifiers breakfast, the story, I'll tell you very briefly the story. So all of us in this group had qualified except for one guy. He hadn't qualified for a game. All the rest of us had. So we were all going to breakfast one morning, and we're leaving, and the other guy's coming with us. Wait, what are you doing? And he goes, what do you mean? I'm hanging out with you guys like we've been doing the whole tournament. I'm like, no, wait a minute. No, dude. This is a qualifiers breakfast. We all qualified for a tournament. You didn't. You can't come. And his face is like melted, so depressed. He was like, really? Oh, man, really? I can't hang out with you guys anymore? Like, nah, I'm sorry. Well, sometimes you can hang out with us. Not this breakfast, though, because this is a special qualifiers breakfast only for people who qualified for the final brackets of their games. You didn't, so I'm sorry, dude. And the guy was like, oh, and I was like, we're kidding, man. Come out. We're fucking with you. He totally bought it. He thought we were going to tell him he can't come to breakfast with us. But it was funny as fuck. But, yeah, so Isaac was one of the people who qualified, and he's cool people. It's funny because if we go through, like, different people in different states, I could probably mention a ton of people who I was really friendly with back in the day. But I haven't seen Isaac in a million years, man. Like, that's how it is I've been out of the competitive Street Fighter community for... when Street Fighter 4 came out, I played it competitively for about a year, and then when Marvel vs. Capcom 3 came out, I tried to be competitive at it for a couple months, and that was really it. That was like my last hurrah, and that was, maybe 2010, 2011? So you're talking a good 6-7 years since I've cared about competitive Street Fighter, and I haven't seen Isaac in even longer than that. But that was cool to hear from him. Will I ever get back into competitive Street Fighter? I mean, the answer is very simple. It's the same answer I've given everyone. If there's ever a game that interests me to the point where I want to get back into it, I live about 45 minutes away from Seattle. So if I wanted to go to Seattle and participate in tournaments regularly, I could. Vegas is closer to me now than ever before. If I wanted to just take a quick flight to EVO, I could. But the bottom line is, what interests me? I hate Street Fighter V. I fucking detest it, okay? Street Fighter 4 isn't played competitively anymore, and I was never good enough really to be a tournament player in that game. The game that I'm the best at, Super Turbo, isn't played as a main game anymore. It's usually they have side tournaments for it, but I have no interest in traveling and spending hundreds if not thousands of dollars to play in a side tournament. You know what I mean? Tekken, am I good at it? Not really. I know basics and fundamentals, but I'm not good at it. I'm not good enough to be a tournament competitor. Injustice, no. You know what I mean? Like, all the games, there's not going to be a game at EVO that I'm good enough that I would go to EVO and be competitive at it. The games that I like aren't popular. You know what I mean? Like, Super Turbo isn't super popular anymore. And it really is a shame. Street Fighter V, in my opinion, it had all the potential. It really did have all the potential to be a great game, and they just fucked it up so bad when it was being developed. And now I don't care about it, and I refuse to put time and effort into a game that was terrible at launch, is still terrible today, still has more frame delay than any other competitive Street Fighter. The game was designed with frame delay in mind. It's a piece of shit. It really was designed by hacks. And it's sad that they put the Street Fighter franchise in the hands of people who didn't know what they were fucking doing. And now it's in the situation it is. Less people than ever are playing competitive Street Fighter because of this. And that's a sad thing. Okay. I actually got a cheer that's, I think, pertinent to the question. Timic83 did a 69-bit cheer. He says, why did you never get into Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3? I felt the game got a lot better. It's very simple. It's very simple because Marvel vs. Capcom 3 is a terrible game. Any game where you can get lucky, get one hit, and that hit can lead to you completely winning a game is garbage. Because everyone's going to have good and bad luck. It should be ultimately who has the better meta game. Who had the overall better playstyle that led to you winning the match. But Marvel vs. Capcom 3 is ultimately about getting that one lucky hit, using X Factor, and then blowing out your opponent completely and winning instantly. It's a garbage game. At its core, the way it was designed is flawed and not a good competitive game, and that's a shame. And that's why when Ultimate came out, I didn't care. I did play it, but I didn't play it any more than just a little cursory bit. I just didn't give a shit at that point because I knew Marvel vs. Capcom 3 was a broken-ass piece of garbage game that was made for visuals. It was made for the kids to watch on stream. It wasn't made to be played at a high competitive level and be enjoyable, because it's not. At a high competitive level, that game is not enjoyable at all. It sucks. It really does. It's not fun. Okay. Next question from BlackSpawn89. He says, Phil, watching some of your older playthroughs, I found them to be much less PC. You had jokes that didn't shy away from sex, gay jokes, ethnic jokes, etc. While some find those crass and vulgar or offensive, some also found them to be funny and something completely different. What made you change your joke style in your Let's Plays? You make much less racist style jokes, much less sexist jokes. What happened to cause such drastic changes in your commentary? Was it was it that you were in a long-term relationship with Leanna and made you realize that sexist jokes maybe were unjust? Was it a business move because people were doing montages of negative stuff that you were saying in your videos and basically turning into slander, acting like you actually meant that stuff? What, when, and why did the change in your commentary style have less potty humor and focus more on being tame and conservative? And that's from BlackSpawn89. Here. First of all, I don't think that overall my commentary has changed. If you actually watch my commentary from an old school playthrough back in the day and you watch my commentary on a newer game, with a few exceptions, I think you're still going to see a similar style of commentary. Now, admittedly, yes, there's less cringe-worthy humor now in my playthroughs, although I'll still bring it up, I'll reference a girl's big tits or whatever. Most of the time, I'm not using the most crass, basic, lowest common denominator style jokes all the time anymore, alright? There's a few reasons why. Number one, when I started back on YouTube, alright, way back in the day, I was heavily influenced by the Angry Video Game Nerd, and that guy, he is the most over-the-top character, right? Fuck this, fuck that, shit dicks, and all that stuff that, everything you can think of, he's just swearing every other word usually in his videos. So at the time, I was actually trying to be the most over-the-top kind of guy you could get on YouTube and see how that would work in a commentary style for live gameplay. That's number one. Number two, back then, it was the Wild West of YouTube. And what I mean by that is, it was the burgeoning era when people were coming to the site in droves and everything was new and different. It's not, today it's more polished, it's more professional. Everything has to conform to this certain formula for success in order to succeed. You know what I mean? It wasn't like that back then. Back then it was very drastically different. So for me, it was like, let's just try anything. Throw any fucking thing out there, right? And see, what happens. And I did. I pushed it all the fucking way to the limit in a lot of cases with the stuff that I would say in my videos. Let's face it, right? Now, admittedly, okay, it eventually got me into trouble. I mean, take a look at the Blip TV situation where I was making jokes about, I was basically impersonating a Nazi character. Similarly, and this was directly supposed to be a direct kind of reference or even homage to the same thing they had done on the Howard Stern radio show, where they impersonate a Nazi character and he would say offensive things to Jews, but it's supposed to be tongue-in-cheek humor because you're supposed to be an over-the-top Nazi character. That was the point of the segment on the Howard Stern show, and I was trying to do the same thing. Blip didn't care. They were like, dude, you're making Nazi racist jokes against Jews, forget that, and they basically kicked me off the site because someone pretended to complain about it when in reality it was a troll who was trying to get me kicked off the site and even publicly bragged about it later. But you see what I mean? I finally reached that point where I was like, okay, maybe I finally reached the limit. I finally now, and that was, by the way, that was 7 years ago? 6.5 years ago. I was like, we've reached the limit here where I don't think I could really push it to the limit anymore, okay? And since then, yeah, you noticed it was a slow kind of curtailing it a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. Over the years, I definitely still said things that were generalization, racist jokes, and things like that. But again, I'm not racist, and I think anyone who watches my stuff would know that. You know that I'm just making general jokes to insult everyone. I've insulted my own heritage, Italian culture. I've insulted many times as much as anything else. So I'm an equal opportunity, jokester, pretty much. But what you gotta realize is that things change over time. And it's funny because the same things, these crude humor, right, that got me popular on YouTube back in the day, today people literally will bring it up and say, Phil's a racist. Here's things he said, 7 years ago in his videos, and they'll bring up those jokes and act like I actually meant it and use it as trying to say that I'm a racist. Right? Now, back in the day, people thought it was funny. They understood the humor. They were a lot more open to it. Now, YouTube's become more PC and more SJW. I mean, the SJW movement didn't exist back then. So you're talking, now everything is also... Now, anything you say will be twisted in a way to make you look bad, right? So, I did have to, over time, kind of adjust my commentary for a more widespread audience and try to make it so that I wasn't constantly offending people, which is funny because I don't think I've ever tried to intentionally offend anyone with something I said, but people get touchy and offended by anything these days. It's very different. Again, 2008 to 2011 YouTube versus 2012 to 2017 YouTube are like two completely different fucking groups. It was one generation of people who got it, and now the next generation who don't. And it's just such a different thing now. It really is. It's true that the same humor that got me popular back then and made me a big YouTuber basically flipped on its head and got me in trouble later on, even though it's the same shit, right? And it wasn't me that changed, it was the culture of the YouTube viewer and the new generation of viewers coming in who were basically different people and had different beliefs that changed everything, okay? Now, I'm not to say that I wouldn't make jokes like this from time to time. I still do. It's just that I don't do it constantly anymore. And I mean, ultimately, is my content better because of it? I don't know. That's a subjective question. Some people might say, man, I really wish the old school Phil would come back. And other people are like, no, I like the new school Phil, who is more mature. He's learned a ton over the years. He knows how to walk in other people's shoes now, and he realizes why maybe what he did back then doesn't stand now and isn't a good thing to do now, right? But that's the thing. There's those people... Everything's black and white. There's always right and wrong, and nothing ever changes. They think just because something I did 5-6 years ago, I did it back then, that it stands now. So because I made those jokes on Blip TV, in late 2010, that means I'm the same person now, and I would still do those same jokes. So I'm a horrible person. You should never watch my stuff because I'm a racist. And this is the shit that people come up with. They make these fucking stupid-ass videos, slanderous videos and montages, right? And it's just so dumb. So anyway... It is what it is. That's basically what happened over the years. Times change, right? All right. Next question is from... Papers are stuck. Anthony77FX, and he says, Phil, the other day I went and I saw the latest Guardians of the Galaxy 2 movie. Once again, Marvel has proven themselves to be capable of making better films than the ones that DC has done ever since way back when they made Man of Steel 2013. So far, I haven't enjoyed any of their movies after watching Suicide Squad last year. I'm no longer even excited for the upcoming Wonder Woman. Can you tell this guy posted this question earlier on because Wonder Woman hadn't been out yet? And I'm also not interested in Justice League or any other upcoming projects. At this point, I'd rather just stick to watching Marvel films because they've done a much better job with their characters as well as their overall cinematic universe, unlike the executives at DC who are just trying to play catch-up with their own universe. Why do you think DC doesn't do as well compared to Marvel? And if you had to, what advice would you give them to help improve their films? I'm really happy to see that you brought back Hate Live, and I'm excited for your upcoming playthroughs. Keep up the good work. In a nutshell, first of all, I didn't see Wonder Woman. But these papers will not, I'm going to put the papers over here. They will not sit on this. They keep falling on the floor. There. Stay. I didn't see Wonder Woman. I can't say a word about Wonder Woman. I did not see the movie, so I can't judge that one. But... yeah, I mean, you're talking Man of Steel, obviously, Batman vs. Superman, Suicide Squad. What was the other one? There was another DC movie in there, wasn't there? I thought there was one other one that was in there that people didn't like. God, I can't remember what it was. See, the DC movies are so not memorable or good to me. Like, they don't even stick in my head. I can't even remember. Seriously. But anyway... in my opinion, Here's the reason why the movies suck. The directors. It's that simple. Because the creative direction of where a movie is going can completely change its tone. The problem with a movie like Batman vs. Superman was that they tried to be too dark, too serious, and the movie ended up being too convoluted for having way too much shit thrown into it rather than just being a cohesive story, okay? Suicide Squad. That movie, you could tell, is a jumbled mess because they wanted it to be a dark tale, and then later on they went back and reshot a bunch of the movie to make it more lighthearted when people complained that Batman vs. Superman was too dark. The directors of these movies, instead of being in touch with who these characters are and trying to make movies in the spirit of the creative source material, which is what Marvel is good at. They're good at taking a character like Iron Man and saying, what are the pros and cons of Iron Man? The pros are that he has a good personality, he's a jokester, but he's also hyper intelligent, but he's an alcoholic. That's one of the cons. They take those and they create a creative movie and universe around what's already established in the Marvel lore to make something great. DC guys, fuck it, we want to make an artistic piece. So we're going to just throw this away and throw that away. We'll have creative control over this and that and this and that. And it ends up just transforming it into something it wasn't supposed to be based off of the core material. Now, some people will argue, well, if you just stay towards the source material, you'd never make a movie because you just have people running around in their underwear and it wouldn't be realistic at all and people wouldn't like it. I agree to some extent, but it does have to be said when you look at these choices that were fucking made. Making the Joker look like a fucking street thug with tattoos all over his fucking body and not being anything like what the Joker's supposed to be in Suicide Squad. Obviously, that's going to have a negative effect, and you can only have so much, oh, I'm going to be artistic and creative with the source material before people groan and say, no, we know what these characters are, we know what they're supposed to be and what we would like them to see them as in a movie, and when you transform it too much or you make it too dark or too artistic or too much your own control, you fucked it up. And that's the truth, is I get the feeling there's a bunch of artistic shit in these movies, these DC movies, that we don't even get. It probably goes right over our fucking heads, because you get these artsy-fartsy fucking directors who are worried more about making this thing that could be their magnum opus, rather than making a good fucking movie. All we want is a good movie. We're not asking for a superhero movie that is going to be the best movie ever made. It's going to win tons of Oscars and shit. We just want a good time at the movies, and that's what DC is missing. Making movies that are good times instead of these artistic creations. Yeah, that's what I think. I really think that they really have lost their way. Wonder Woman I haven't seen again. And a lot of people seem to like the movie, so that's a good sign. And you know, they're making an Aquaman movie, they're making a Justice League. I don't know, man. Especially if it's the same people who are doing this. Did you hear about this fucking, not Supergirls. It's supposed to be like the DC villain females. It's supposed to be Catwoman, Poison Ivy, and Harley Quinn in their own movie, directed by the same guy who made Suicide Squad. You know what? I think I'd rather see someone take a fucking diarrhea shit all over a piece of film and watch that, because I have no interest in that fucking movie. That movie's going to suck shit because they just don't get it. It's not going to be the source material. They're going to ruin it again. I just know they are. Gotham City Sirens is what it's going to be called. It's going to be shit. It's going to be Gotham City Diddly Dicks, fucking Dingleberries. It's going to be so crap, man. I'm so disappointed what they're doing there. But it's so funny because then you hear Marvel and you watch the Marvel movies, like, holy shit, like Thor. When I saw Thor, when I thought it was going to be terrible, I really did. I thought Thor was going to be like a god-awful movie, because how do you translate that fucking cheesy Norse god, over-the-top character to the film? They actually did a decent job. Is it amazing? No, but Thor is actually pretty good in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He's not terrible. And you know what I mean? Like, they took the source material, they tried to take the positives and negatives, keep it true, but then make it a little bit more realistic, and they just made a fun movie. Versus, this is supposed to be artistic, let's do this and that, and let's change Thor completely. And fuck this. Alright, enough of this. Enough of shitting on David Ayer, because people will be angry at me, even though I fucking hate everything he's ever done. Next question. This one's from Last Rambo 341. Last Rambo says, I have two questions. First of all, DLC. When a developer announces DLC before a game is released or during the first few weeks or months of release, people get angry, but why is that? Because even if DLC is announced in the middle or late lifespan of the game, it's bound to happen. I think it guarantees that the game is still getting support. Listen, the reason people are angry about DLC is very simple. Because they're tired of getting ripped off. When you buy a $60 game, you expect that game to be completed, to be functional, and to be a full retail purchase value. And what's happening a lot in this day and age is you're getting a game has a season pass announced before the game even fucking comes out. The game comes out, it's broken, it's buggy, it doesn't fucking work. Why are you selling a season pass before you even made a core fucking game that works? In addition, there's way too many games now that release DLC so quickly that you know that could have been part of the core game. I'll give you a perfect example of this, something that I have not stood for. Injustice 2 released on May 16th, 2017, okay? Red Hood, the first DLC character, released for season pass subscribers on the 13th of June, not even 30 days after the release of the retail game. Do you really believe that he couldn't have been made available for retail release? Fuck no. He was ready, but they wanted to sell DLC right away. So they took a character that could have been in the final game, they pulled him back and held him off, right? And they sold him a month later. It's bullshit. And it's not a good, valid practice. You need to make a core game that has enough value. Now, not to say Injustice 2 doesn't. It does. Injustice 2 has a ton of value, a ton of characters. But that's another character we all could have had that we were gypped, basically, because they wanted to make money right away outside of the $60 purchase. So, that's the thing. Now, I agree that if, let's say, for example, I'll tell you a game that I think did it right. I know a lot of people won't even remember this. BioShock Infinite. BioShock Infinite released a full-fledged story-based campaign game that was amazing. It was robust. It was a great story. It had a cool ending. Everything was good. I loved BioShock Infinite. But they announced we're going to have DLC coming out at a later date. You could buy the season pass if you want. It's going to be a variety of stuff. First of all, it's going to have challenge maps based off of the stuff in the original Infinite game. But then we're going to have 2 story-based chapters that tie the stories of the original BioShock to BioShock Infinite. And these will be, totally outside the realm of what you played in the original game. And you know for a fact when you play them, those take place in Rapture. They're not even the location of BioShock Infinite. They're completely different stories, completely new content. Yes, 2 thumbs up for a season pass like that. That's going to add significant amount of new stuff that obviously wasn't part of the original game's development. That I will support. But I will not support, a DLC add-on pack of 4 characters that could have easily been in the retail release. Fuck that. That's bullshit. So there's ways to do it right and ways to not do it right. Okay, I think the anger that people are expressing about the DLC is because they've been burned too many times. Batman Arkham Knight, I bought the season pass. 9 out of the 10 DLCs were complete shit. There were 2 story-based DLCs that were decent, but they were only 2 hours long each, and the rest of the season pass was all garbage that I didn't care about. What a rip. I feel like I got ripped off. And that's what's happening with a lot of people. Okay. Your second question. Your comments have been quite harsh in regards to many superhero films and characters like Wonder Woman, Bane, Ultron, Loki, Doomsday, Lex Luthor, for not following what the comic books and source material say. However, you mentioned that you love Lord of the Rings films despite them not including everything from the books. My question is, would it be more fair that the films get reviewed on their own objective manner? Not everything can be translated well to films. For example, if they had yellow spandex suits in the X-Men movies, you probably would say it looks like shit. Yes and no. Movies can be reviewed objectively, but if you completely ignore the source material, you're actually doing a disservice to those who are fans of that and want to know, is the movie good for fans? You know what I mean? Let's say, for example, I just reviewed Street Fighter V completely objectively as a game on its own and never referenced the previous Street Fighter game. That's not fair because there's tons of people who played the previous Street Fighter games and want to know, is this game better or worse than the previous ones, and should they spend their money on it? It's the same thing here. Yeah, you have to reference the source material when you're reviewing stuff like that if you have knowledge of it, because if you don't, you'll completely miss out. I'll give you a perfect example, an absolutely perfect example of why you always need to reference the source material, and you can't just be completely objective. Duke Nukem Forever. This was a game that was in development hell for the greater part of over a decade, all right? And when it released, yes, the game was inferior to modern games. The game certainly was not a full-fledged game that you would expect when it, for playing in 2012 when it released. But was it a non-functioning, terrible piece of garbage? No. the game just wasn't living up to modern standards. And if you understood what the game went through, and if you had played the original Duke Nukem games as a frame of reference, you would understand that was a modernized version of the classic Duke Nukems, and actually for fans of Duke Nukem, the game would actually be good, and you need to say that in your review. But tons of reviewers never played the original Duke Nukems in the 90s and just came out and said, this game sucks ass, 2 out of 10, 0 out of 10, and panned the fuck out of the game. That's incredibly irresponsible to do. So if I were to review Suicide Squad and say, well, based on its own merits, and not counting that I know any of these characters or their background stories, I know that there's better Jokers, but I'm not going to reference that. I give this movie a 9 out of 10. That's not a valid review. A review has to be both objective and subjective. It has to address both things in order to be a valid review, and that's always been my review style over the years. So that's the point here, is you need, when you have a review, you do objectively, you review things, but you also have a subjective take, and you combine the two in a balanced manner to make a good review. Sadly, I find, at least, especially in the gaming media, not a lot of gaming journalists are good at it. They're not. They either go all one way or all the other, and they fuck up the reviews, and they're not, they're not good representations of what you'll get by playing that game. Now, for me, when I'm talking about these movies, of course I'm going to bring in my subjective takes at these characters. I'm longtime fans of Marvel and DC, so when I see Gal Gadot playing Wonder Woman, this skinny, like her arms are like the width of my wrist, okay? That's fucking Wonder Woman. Did you ever read a Wonder Woman comic book? Did you ever watch a Wonder Woman cartoon? Did you ever do anything Wonder Woman before to tell you that Gal Gadot does not fucking look like Wonder Woman? She does. She looks like a supermodel cosplaying as Wonder Woman. I'm sorry, it's bad casting. Now again, I didn't see the movie. Maybe they fucking CGI ripping muscles on her fucking body. Wonder Woman is an Amazonian warrior. She's supposed to be buff, okay? You wanna know what would have been good casting for Wonder Woman, and I know people will shoot me for this? China. Now, I know she passed away, rest in peace. China is kind of what Wonder Woman's supposed to be. A buff, but yet still kind of attractive woman who can fight off men and monsters and everything. She doesn't have skinny supermodel fucking arms. That's what she's supposed to look like. But they didn't get, let's just get the prettiest girl we can to put butts in seats. Wow. That's definitely the mentality you should do when you're trying to make a movie that's, to the character. You know what I mean? It's bullshit. It's really stupid, all right? Now, people say China doesn't have the face. No, you're right. I get that. China doesn't have an amazing face or whatever, and Wonder Woman supposedly had a gorgeous face. But you see what I'm saying? The body type, that's what they needed. They needed something like that, not supermodel skinny girl, high school girl fucking dressing up for Halloween, which is what she looks like to me. Okay. Niche, I'm going to do one or two more questions, then we'll take a break. Niche2440 asks, he says, hey Phil, I saw a video on YouTube addressing the YouTube ad apocalypse. And in response to people claiming that they were going to leave YouTube because they're making less money, he says, well then you know what, those people shouldn't even be welcome on YouTube. He basically argued that YouTube is supposed to be a platform for a hobby and passionate creators instead of big business, and that any money from ad revenue should be considered as a bonus for making content. My question is, where do you think the line is drawn between doing what you love and making money? Alright. Listen. Everyone is being negatively affected by this YouTube ad revenue thing. Everyone. Even people who are just viewers, because a lot of your favorite content creators are saying, listen, it's not like it used to be, and I can't do this for a job full time anymore. And it sucks, right? It really does suck that this is the reality of the situation. I was always one of the people who said that YouTubers should be genuine in what they're doing and not just doing it as a job for money, right? I did YouTube videos starting in 2007. Started doing them more regularly in 2008, and I did them all the way through early 2011 before I ever placed an advertisement on one of my gameplay videos and made a penny doing it. So you're talking the greater part of 3 years, I was doing this as a hobby because I loved it, not because I ever expected to make money doing it, right? And there were tons of people over the years, tons, who jumped on the YouTube bandwagon of I can make money doing it just because they saw the green. And I'm sorry, I gotta call it out, and people will give me shit. People like Toby Turner and iJustine, who were known for just being vloggers, for being silly. They're attractive people, so they got popular on YouTube because people wanted to see attractive people do vlogging and jokes and stuff. oh, wait a minute, gaming now is profitable? All of a sudden, I'm going to open a gaming channel and start playing games and monetizing my gameplay videos, even though they're not good at games. They never even talked about video games before in any of their fucking videos. It's apparent when you watch them, they're not gamers. They jumped on the YouTube cash money bandwagon to make a quick buck, and they did it just for business, not because they cared about it. And there's tons, sadly, there's tons of YouTubers, all right, who've done this. And they come in, oh, my focus on YouTube is to make money, so I'm going to come in with all this fucking capital to invest on a YouTube business, and I'm going to hire professional grade, videographers to edit and film, and I'm going to have a movie studio where I'm going to have all this stuff where we can film, and we're going to have vlog segments, and we're going to have commentary segments, but we're going to have professional level gameplay videos, and they come in and they create a whole business around what they want to do on YouTube, okay? Is there any love and attention in there? I don't know. I guess it would actually be individual to the group or the person. Maybe some of them literally did start on YouTube small and blew up and became these more professional things, right? And now maybe they're really screwed over because they're taking a giant financial hit because they did invest so much money or whatever to become professional, and now their income's 60% lower than what it used to be. That would be a bad situation. But I certainly, all right, would not support someone who came into YouTube only for business, right? And, oh no, ad revenue went down. Oh darn, I feel so bad for you. You want to know someone who I don't feel bad for? Those fucking brothers, I forget their names, it was the big controversy last year, who made those fucking shitty ass React videos. The lowest common denominator of content you could put on fucking YouTube. They came into YouTube rich. They were already rich when they started their fucking channels on YouTube, okay? They stole the idea of reaction videos from other people to make their YouTube channels, and then they just threw a ton of money at it because they were already fucking rich. Who knows where they made their money, if they even made it, or if it's mommy and daddy's money, who fucking knows, okay? And they made a YouTube business based around stealing someone else's idea. And then they had the audacity last year to try to trademark the idea so that no one else could make reaction videos. I mean, that's like the epitome of scumbag on YouTube. And it actually fucking baffles me that anyone would even watch another one of their videos after all this factual information came to light last year about how fucking just disgusting people they are. And people still watch their shit. Like, that blows my mind. People like them, oh no, their revenue went down 60%. I have no fucking sympathy for someone like that, all right? But, for someone who really does it for the love of doing it, you can tell they love what they do on YouTube. They're doing it because they love doing it. And maybe, by chance, they somehow found a way to make it profitable, to do it full time. Now you're doing what you love as your full-time job. That's exactly what happened to me. I had an office job that I was working where I was very underappreciated. They were overworking me and having me do things that weren't within my pay grade, but they were paying me pittance to do this fucking work. And then they laid me off, okay? I was doing YouTube for 3 years as a hobby, and just by chance, it so happened that when I got laid off, you could start monetizing gameplay videos on YouTube at the time, and I just happened to have a contact who led me towards Machinima, who partnered me, and it all worked out. So here's someone, I was passionate about games beforehand for 3 years. I started doing it as a job, and I was able to do what I loved while make money. That's like the ideal situation. People like that, I feel really bad for. If now, all of a sudden, now they can't do it anymore because maybe they were, they weren't super filthy rich. They weren't making tons of money doing it. And then all of a sudden now their ad revenue goes, boo! And you know what I mean? Now I got to go back to doing a 9-to-5 job. There was a girl who does YouTube videos, and someone just linked me to her video randomly. This was when YouTube ad revenue started plummeting. And this girl, apparently, she was in like either architecture or engineering. And she says, literally, I did that job as just busy work. I didn't really like it. I had no passion for it. I was good at it, but I used it to pay the bills. But then when I started doing YouTube, I started making money doing YouTube, and I turned this into my job, and I love doing this. And now I can't do this for my job anymore, guys, so I'm going to have to stop making YouTube videos, or I'm going to have to make less YouTube videos because I have to go find a job in that field again. Those people I feel bad for because they did nothing fucking wrong, right? What did we do? We just kept putting out content that people watched and liked, and fucking it was YouTube that fucked up and screwed those people over. Was she cute? I don't even remember what she looked like. Someone in the street says, was she cute? I don't even remember what she looked like. I have no clue. But that being said, the question here is, where do you think the line is drawn between doing what you love and making money? In the ideal world, there is none. In the ideal world, you could do what you love and still make money doing it. Although I realize that you are incredibly, incredibly lucky if you're able to do that. I'm still doing it, but I'm barely making it, guys. Like, I am at the point now where, you know, if things don't keep going positively like they are right now, if I have another big negative thing happen to me, I'm going to end up having to sell my house, which I don't want to do. I'm going to have to sell my house. I'm going to have to try to find a way to move into a much smaller place around here in Washington State. And I'm probably going to be screwed financially for the rest of my life. I'm probably going to not be able to do this full time. I might have to split my time between this and then one or two other jobs, which I know is going to suck horribly. And I want to keep doing this for a living, but I need it to stay how it is right now and get better. It has to stay at least where it is and slowly get better over time, or else I'm not. And I'm one of these people who's been massively negatively affected by the stuff going on. And I love this. Again, I love covering the new releases. I love all this. I would not do this if I didn't love it. I would stop right now. Okay? I would have stopped years ago. With all the negative shit that I've gotten over the years, just think about it. All the slander against me, the hatred against me, these fucking obsessed kids, right? And I call them kids because they are. When you have the mentality that it's okay to do the things that they've done to me, you're a kid. Because no mature adult would think like that. Even if they might have the bodies of adults, they're still children in their fucking heads. So, you know what I mean? Like, there's so many negatives that have happened. There's no way that I would keep doing this if I didn't love it. Some people don't believe that, but I think they're just stupid. Because they can't believe that someone like me could persevere through all the negativity that's happened to me, and I would keep plugging at it. No, I do this because I love it. I want to keep doing this. I don't ever want to stop. Like I said, even long term, if I spread my efforts between a business and this, I still want to do this to some extent. I love it. But we got to see what happens. I'm hoping things stay positive and things can get better here, especially in particular on Twitch. There is growth happening, and if I can keep it growing and keep it going, then maybe things will turn out all right. We'll see. Okay. A couple shout-outs, and then we'll take a break. Shout-out to Ritzamac, apologies, I don't know how to pronounce your name, who subscribed to the channel for the third month in a row. And he says, Wonder Woman is 10 out of 10 because Gal Gadot is 10 out of 10. But you see what my point I was making? So Gal Gadot's hot, so the movie's good. That's not the point of the movie. See what I mean? Shout out to Timic83 who did a 50-bit cheer. He says, fighting game character DLC is extra scummy because tournament organizers need to buy the DLC on every PS4 they own. A complete joke, especially for Street Fighter V and the upcoming Marvel Infinite DLC, which already announced at the end of the fucking demo. Right, Marvel Infinite doesn't come out until September, but there's DLC characters for it already. Go fuck yourself, Capcom. It's obvious. Obvious you're full of shit. Okay? Obviously those characters could be in it. Here we go. So from 13, 15, 18, 20, I don't know what that reference is. They did a $2 tip and said, Phil, if you're short on money, you should rent out your house to a porno company. I heard they pay good money for it. But do they pay for the cleaning afterward is the question. I'm streaming here one day and I said, what's that? Oh! Okay, and shout out to King of Hypocrisy who did a 10-bit cheer and says, what is your favorite Fleetwood Mac song? Oh, fuck. I know a few Fleetwood Mac songs from playing Rock Band, but I can't fucking remember what they are now, honestly. I know they have a few good songs, but honestly, not even one comes to mind. Sorry. And then, shout out to Real Pet Chicken, who just subscribed for the second month in a row and said, keep your head up, Phil. Fuck the haters. All right, everyone. Thank you for that support. I appreciate it. I'm now going to take a break, and we're going to come back and continue. Just to give you an idea, let's see here. I've got 1, 2... 3, 4, 5. We got about 5 to 6 more forum questions and then a few Twitter questions. So I think I may be able to finish it with one more part. Okay, everyone? All right. Thanks for watching. I'll be back in a few minutes with part 3. If you're watching this on YouTube, no worries. Part 3 will be a separate video. If you're watching this live on Twitch, it's going to be a short break, and I'll be back in a few. Okay? Thanks, everyone. I'll be back with the conclusion in just a few minutes.